Hi LCS students. Today we're going to be making a quilt by folding and coloring and drawing on a piece of paper. So you're going to need today a pencil, and you're also going to need colored pencils or crayons and then markers of your choice. So I'm going to hold my paper horizontally for right now, and I'm going to write my name in the middle, and then I'm going to write my room number, and then I'm going to flip my paper over so I can't see my name anymore. Now I'm going to start to fold my paper. I'm going to hold my paper horizontally, and I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to fold my paper in half one more time. So when I open it up, I will have 4 rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is the most tricky part about folding this paper. I'm going to turn my paper vertically, and I'm going to divide this paper into thirds. So I'll have a line here, and I'll have a folded line here. To do that, I'm going to take one side, and I'm going to fold it over until, see how these look about the same size? I'm going to make those two parts about the same size, and then I'm going to fold my paper. And open it up, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to fold this over until I hit that line, and they look about the same size. I'm going to crease my line. So you should have 3 squares going across the top. And then if I turn my paper back to the horizontal position, I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top. So in total, I will have 12 squares. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to color each square. And I'm going to make each square a different color. So let me grab a colored pencil. And I'm just going to start in my first square. And I'm going to color each square nice and neat, doing my very, very best coloring. Remember, we want to use our best craftsmanship when we color, so I want to make sure I'm staying inside of the lines. And I would remember, I always like to turn my paper as I'm working. I'm just going to color that whole first square. And if you don't have colored pencils available to you, you could always use crayon. That will work exactly the same. So I have 1 square finished. I'm just going to continue doing random colors all over my paper, and I'll catch back with you in a few minutes. Now I'm almost finished coloring my last square. As you can see, I've colored all of my squares with the colored pencil. I tried to do each square a different color, and I colored them nice and neat. So I'm just finishing up this last one. And once again, I always like to turn my paper as I'm working on coloring. It makes it a little bit easier. So now that I have all my squares colored, I'm ready to start to add my stitches. Now, quilts are typically made from fabric squares that are sewn together. So we're going to pretend that the stitches are thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Sharpie marker or a black marker, and I'm going to go inside of each square with tiny dashed lines. Let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going inside of each square, and I'm making dashed lines all the way around that square so that it looks like it's been sewn together. So once I finish one square, I'm just going to start the next one. And once again, I always like to turn my paper when I'm working on this. Remember, dashed lines have a little bit of space in between each short line. So I'm going to continue working on my dashed line to make stitches, and I'll see you in a bit. I'm adding my last few dashed lines to finish making my stitches. So now my quilt looks like it has different colors of fabric that have been sewn together. The last step for my quilt is I'm going to be using marker to add patterns, and I'm going to try to use a variety of different patterns in each square. So a pattern is a line or a shape that repeats over and over again. So I'm just going to start in my first square. I think for this square I'm going to do a spiral pattern. And I'm just drawing on top of my colored pencil, and I'm trying to fill up the whole square. I would not use a black marker for this step of the project because we already used black for the stitches, but any other color marker should be just fine. So I'm going to think of a different pattern. So maybe this one I want to do some curvy lines for my next square. And I'm just going to keep filling each square with pattern until my whole project is finished. I have now filled up every square with a different pattern, and I'm just finishing up this last section. Some of the patterns I decided to color in. Some of them I just left lines. Remember, this is your quilt, so you can make it however you would like to make it. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine, and I don't want it to look exactly like mine. It should be your masterpiece. And remember, as I said before, if you're missing an art supply or if you don't have something, just use what you have, be creative, and make your own designs. So there we go. I'm now all finished with my quilt. Just to review, when we made this quilt, we folded our paper, then we colored our squares, then to make it look like an actual quilt, which is a blanket made from different pieces of fabric stitched together, we drew dashed lines to make our stitches for the thread. Then we went back on top with marker and added a variety of patterns. Can't wait to see your masterpieces. Thanks for making art with me. See you soon.